time for Legislation Nation. Today, I am going to be talking about the Protecting Girls' Access to Education in Vulnerable Settings Act. The bill was first introduced in the 114th Congress by Congressman Steve Chabot of Ohio. However, it never saw the Senate because nobody wrote a companion bill. In the 115th Congress, Steve Chabot persisted and he reintroduced the bill along with his colleague Robin Kelly of Illinois. We also had two senators introduce it into the Senate, Senator Marco Rubio of Florida and Senator Bob Menendez of New Jersey. 50 co-sponsors in the House and 7 co-sponsors in the Senate already passed in the House. But we still have some work to do in the Senate. The name actually embodies the entire purpose of the bill. Protect girls' access to education in vulnerable settings. If you're unsure what a vulnerable setting is, we are talking about displaced populations, aka refugees, who had to flee their home country due to persecution, violence, or war. 50% of displaced people in the world are under the age of 18. 1 in 4 of those kids don't have access to primary or secondary education. Furthermore, women and girls are disproportionately denied access to education, which can hinder their ability to find a job, engage in civil society, and have access to other economic benefits. In Africa and the Middle East, ongoing armed conflicts have caused roughly 65 million people to become refugees or stateless. 84% of people who have left their home country went to a poor country. Not so fun fact number 2, 30 million of the displaced population are kids. What does that mean for those kids and their future? It hasn't been that long since the last refugee crisis. In fact, in 2015, the country of Myanmar tried to expel 1.1 million Rohingya people because they claimed that they are illegal immigrants from Bangladesh. In 2011, Syria broke out into civil war. It's estimated to have caused 11 million Syrians to flee the country into surrounding countries, primarily Turkey. So why should the United States care about these refugees who are living in these refugee camps, who are not being educated or equally educated? 1, it's the right thing to do. And 2, protecting and promoting women's and girls' rights, especially in education, is so critical to our social progression as an international community. The United States has a moral obligation to uphold these values and ensure that women and girls are getting the education that they not only deserve, but that they need. There's this thing called the Sustainable Development Agenda. We have to remember that gender equality is not equal across the board, meaning that there are still a lot of countries that are striving towards gender equality. But this SDG does not stop at achieving gender equality. There has to be an initiative to empower all women and girls. So how can we help? The Protecting Girls' Access to Education in Vulnerable Settings Act is definitely a necessary response. What this bill does is it prioritizes efforts to support access to primary and secondary education for displaced children with a specific emphasis on women and girls' inclusion in foreign assistance programs. Not only does it encourage host countries to support efforts to ensure that displaced youth have access to safe and quality education, it also ensures that women's and girls' educational needs are included and considered in the design, implementation, and execution of programs related to the advancement of education. It evaluates the impact of these programs. Are there less girls being forced into child marriages? Are there less cases of women being sex trafficked? Is there a reduction in gender-based violence? Implement programs to collect data based on gender and sex. Because these reports need to be accurate to ensure that we're assessing the effectiveness of these programs accurately. Probably most important, it strengthens training and the capacity of governments hosting displaced people, to coordinate with the UN, World Bank, international NGOs, and civil society organizations to effectively design and implement programs which address barriers to equal education. This is a group effort for those of us who like to talk numbers and money, because it is important. These pieces of legislation are being paid for by US taxpayers through the International Affairs budget appropriated to different. The CBO, which is the Congressional Budget Office, scored this bill and projected that it would cost $500,000 over a 4-year period from 2018 to 2022. So what can you do to help? You can start by visiting the Borgen Project website. There you will find all the information that you need. And then second, you call, you email, you tweet your leaders, and you let them know that the United States has a moral obligation to uphold and protect women's and girls' rights, specifically those of educational needs, specifically for those in refugee camps, because they need our help. I honestly believe that without bills like this and without the help of the international community, that women's and girls' rights, nonetheless educational rights, would easily be forgotten. Women and girls living in these refugee camps or in displaced countries are definitely not getting the education that they need. We should do something about that. Am I right?